Today's throwback, we're having a look at the Square-Enix PlayArts Kai Bayonetta action figure. This is figure number 1, Bayonetta, and Spot was kind of feeling nostalgic for the Bayonetta line. I think some of the culprit could be sitting on the shoulders of the NECA Heroes of the Storm figures, which I felt like that one figure kind of reminded me of Bayonetta, and that just kind of snowballed to me pulling this out of my collection and decided to give this figure a re-review. Warning, choking hazard, small parts not for children under 3 years of age, is recommended for ages 17 and up. One of the older PlayArts Kai figures from Square-Enix, or Square-Enix. As a result, though, the box is not as secure as I would hope, whereas now today the boxes are a little more stronger, a little more durable, a little bit larger also in size. But at least with the window, you can kind of still see all of Bayonetta. You can see her pistols, you can see her interchangeable hands, all of which we will look at when we get the figure out of packaging again. The open window carries over also to the side of the package. And on the back side, the second figure, which is a figure I never ended up picking up, the number 2 figure was Jean. And I just never picked it up. It shows you some of the posable options, features over 27 points of articulation. Product may be slightly from photos shown, display base is not included. Down below also, there's Square-Enix. Square-Enix Inc., customer support, and website, www.square-enix.shop.com, and it's licensed for Sega. Spot's going to take a break and get this opened up again. When we come back, though, we're going to get a better look at the Square-Enix PlayArts Kai Bayonetta figure. There's more heading away, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. With Bayonetta back out of packaging, let's get a better look at the figure. Sadly, she is omitting a display stand, something that you see with a lot more PlayArts Kai figures nowadays. You get that clear stand that has the adjustable neck. This figure could have really afforded having that. Unfortunately, she has really long legs, really small feet. She does have slightly a bit of a trouble standing. However, if you take the figure and spin it around, she has a couple of slots in the backs of her heels. If you play Bayonetta, you know that she's got a pair of pistols that actually sit as part of her heels in her shoes. The heels sit, or the guns I should say, sit down the back sides of her legs, right down the sides of her heels here. And when I did the initial review, which I actually was thinking about getting around to gluing it, I just never did, one of the feet, or the grooves I should say in the heels, kind of doesn't hold the gun as best as it could. But you can see how the little pistols, revolvers there sit at the backs of her heels, just exactly like how it was in the game. It also does help a little bit getting her to properly stand. Not better, not the greatest I should say, but just a little bit better. It helps her to stand up, as you can see right there. She does also have a secondary pair of revolvers, and they're actually really the same color as the smaller ones that go on her heels, just size-wise, just a little bit different. There's a jewel, kind of a translucent gemstone that sits through the revolver. The revolver is kind of a pinkish metallic raspberry pink with some accents there of gold and silver on the ends there where the barrels would be. The smaller guns, let's see if I can actually pull them out here. The smaller guns have just like these little charms that stick out. Kind of looking like spurs, not quite because spurs would be further down. And the larger ones also carry over that same sort of idea as well. You can go ahead and take the guns and put them into her hands. She is sadly very small-handed. So you have to really kind of, the thumb does a lot of the holding, I think, of the actual guns themselves. And we go ahead and take the other gun, fit this into her hand. Like that. And you've got her with her pistols in hand. Very nice. Very nice indeed. She does also come with an extra pair of hands. Not one's really suitable for holding the guns. One is more of a flat palm, white, or a slightly off-white on the one side. On the underside, that same color as the revolvers. And then the other hand, same sort of idea. They really don't serve much of a purpose because she doesn't come with really any other hands, or any other accessories for that matter. That these hands just don't serve too much of a purpose. So displaying her, which I actually have not displayed her in the longest of time, displaying her, I'd be displaying her with these hands rather than the ones over there. Let's get a look at her face. Let's bring the camera up, zooming in. The improvements on the PlayArts Kai figures definitely are very apparent here with Bayonetta. It's sadly one of the few Bayonetta figures that we've ever gotten, if you also exclude some of the statues. I've always loved the design of Bayonetta though. I just wish that we could have gotten more stuff. And I mentioned this before, NECA, I don't know, would ever consider doing more, because really, like Bayonetta, other than Bayonetta 2 for Wii, I don't know if, or Wii U, I don't know if there's a potential market for people like myself that are so still very interested in the design of the character. The face is very small. She's sporting her glasses, and you can't really move the glasses out of the way. I mean, you could probably take them off, but then that runs the risk that they could break, and you would have a tough time getting them back into place. Her bustier and other sculpt to the legs and side of her, I don't know what you would call it, just it's basically her full costume here. Sculpted nice. The interior of her legs are more of a gray, whereas the black and the gold outline more so the outsides of the legs and the halter or bust top there. The golds are nice touches as well on the little straps on her shoulders there. And then she comes out to these kind of winged, caped areas. They are actually on their own independent hinge. They do hinge out, and they do also rotate. And there goes one of the guns falling out of her hands. There's also the indication that these are wire framed. The indication being that there's these two slot holes all running the back underside of the cape, so that you do have a little bit of flexibility that you can move the capes around. There's the back sides of the capes too, with that same gold and reddish kind of pinkish color carrying over to these smaller or larger discs at the back of her cape. Also too, as you just probably have seen, the capes are removable. They just peg into the little side areas. So if you wanted to take them off, you could do that as well. Though I think it just kind of, the capes just give a little extra size to a figure that's really very skinny, very lanky in design. Let's go ahead and take the holster, the gun, out of her hand. Now, in the way of her posability, she does have a fair bit, although when you're posing the figure, I've noticed this with some of the older PlayArts Kai figures, you kind of really have to be careful. Stuff gets really fragile feeling, gets very kind of loose feeling. She still holds up well. Her legs are just a little on the loose side, but I think she's held the test of time pretty good. Her head is on a ball joint. Her hair not limiting, or the straps at the back of her hair not limiting any of the motion in her head. This also looks like it slightly has its own ball joint. Not really much though, I wouldn't be playing around with that. Shoulders hinge out. They rotate forward and back. She does have a hinge in the elbow, which doesn't look like she rotates at all in the forearm area, but she does rotate at least in the hand, which also hinges at the wrist. The upper torso, she does have a ball joint, which moves left and right. She does have a secondary ball joint that attaches to the waist area of the figure. Legs are on a ball joint as well. She has a hinge in the lower leg, which also slightly pivots, but I think not intended to rotate, so do be careful with that. Finally, the legs, or the feet-wise, they pivot back and forth, they rotate, and also rotate at the ankle as well. And sometimes when you rotate it, you might find that the revolvers, which I'm actually surprised to find, have still stayed in the figure during the course of this re-review. And then we've already discussed, of course, the articulation in the wings as well. I personally just have a real soft spot for Bayonetta. I just feel like she could have gotten more figures. She hasn't really gotten a lot, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to get her initially as the PlayArts Kai version, because there really wasn't many of her available. She's since come out in statue form, one of which Spot's already done a review of, but I really feel like, much like, well, I think like a Kratos, for example, will forever get merchandise because they keep churning out titles. Bayonetta really only has 2 under her wing, so to speak, but I think she really deserves a figure treatment. I don't know, the chances of having the likes of maybe a NECA covering the line would be so super cool, but I think are very, very unlikely to happen. In the meantime, a good figure, a little more on the expensive side to pick her up now. Would I say recommended to pick her up? She's not perfect. She's poseable, yes, but I feel like she is so missing an updated re-release, at least in less 6-inch variety. If you can find her, and you can find her at a good price, I would say worth picking up, only because there's not a lot of Bayonetta stuff out there to choose from. Today's throwback, we were having a look at the Square-Enix PlayArts Kai Bayonetta figure number 1. We're looking today at Bayonetta. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more throwbacks heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.